evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And straight in, shall we? How pleasant to know Mr. Lear, who has written such volumes of stuff. Some think him ill-tempered and queer, but a few think him pleasant enough. His mind is concrete and fastidious. His nose is remarkably big. His visage is more or less hideous. His beard, it resembles a wig. He has ears and 2 eyes and 10 fingers leastways if you reckon 2 thumbs. Long ago he was one of the singers, but now he is one of the dumbs. He sits in a beautiful parlor with hundreds of books on the wall. He drinks a great deal of marsala, but never gets tipsy at all. He has many friends, laymen and clerical. Old Foss is the name of his cat. His body is perfectly spherical. He weareth a Runcible hat. When he walks in waterproof white, the children run after him so, calling out he's gone out in his nightgown, that crazy old Englishman. He weeps by the side of the ocean. He weeps on the top of the hill. He purchases pancakes and lotion and chocolate shrimps from the mill. He reads, but he cannot speak Spanish. He cannot abide ginger beer. Ere the days of his pilgrimage vanish, how pleasant to know Mr. Lear. Good evening. We are here, my dears, on this most omnivorous Saturday, to hear a bit of Lear, but not the tragic one. Indeed not, but rather the one who's funny. We'll start our story with a few facts, and then go back to nonsense when and wherever possible. So, Edward Lear, an Englishman, born May 12th, 1812, the 20th of 21 children, and the youngest to survive infancy, barely. Throughout his life, he would suffer from asthma, bronchitis, bad vision, eventually partial blindness, and most devastatingly and secretly, to which I will return in good time, epilepsy. After his father's bankruptcy, from the age of 4, he was raised by his older sister, Anne, to whom he addressed his first extant letter on the occasion of her birthday, when she was 35 years of age, and he was himself not yet 14. To Miss Lear on her birthday, 17th January 1826, dear and very dear relation, time, who flies without cessation, who ne'er allows procrastination, who never yields to recuperation, nor ever stops for respiration, has brought again in round rotation the once-a-yearly celebration, when another augmentation of a whole year in numeration will be joined in annexation to thy former agglomeration of 5, 7 years in calculation, and so on, for more than 100 lines. She had taught him to read and to draw and to paint. He would write thousands of letters in his lifetime, and he would, faithfully, write to the sister who raised him, as often as once a week, from all his travels the wide world over, until she died, aged 70, in 1861. In fact, Edward would outlive all but one of his siblings. Here, from another letter in verse to his sister, this one dated 7th November, 1829, titled Journal. Gobbled enough to choke Goliath, drank my tea and sat by the fire, saw the baby, that unique child, who squeaked and stared and sniffled and smiled, then went to bed with a very good will, and fell asleep ere you'd swallow a pill. At 15, he would already earn his living as an artist. At 16, he was commissioned by the Zoological Society of London as their ornithological draftsman to make paintings of the parrots in their aviary. At 19, he would publish his first book, Illustrations of the Family of Parrots. Birds would figure largely in his life, to wit, and perhaps most famously, there was an old man with a beard who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." But also, there was a young lady whose bonnet came untied when the birds sat upon it. But she said, "I don't care. All the birds of the air are welcome to sit on my bonnet." Or here, there was an old man of dumb breed who taught little owls to drink tea. For he said, "To eat mice is not proper or nice." That amiable man of dumb done with zoological parrots, he received the commission that was to change his life. Before we go on, I will point out these are Lear's birds. Let me just get a particular example for show and tell. Lovely, yes? 15. As I said, soon after he'd done with the parrots, he received the commission that was to change his life. Lear was hired to illustrate the Earl of Derby's, pronounced Darby's to rhyme with Arby's, not Derby's to rhyme with Furby's, private menagerie of birds, beasts, and various Trimbley floxes. Lear's formal studies of birds and animals, by the by, have been compared favorably to those of Audubon, and prints are now in the collections of no less than Sir David Attenborough and the Prince of Wales. Lear would spend the next few years at the stately home of the Stanleys and their patriarch, the good Earl of Derby, drawing and painting and amusing first the children and then the whole company. Here's how that happened. The old Earl adored his two young grandsons and they him. They had lunch together every day. Finding the otherwise always amiable boys, one day inexplicably anxious to cut their time together short, the Earl was moved to ask them just where it was they suddenly had to be. They explained that they were eager to get back to the steward's room in the servants' hall, as there was a painter there, named Mr. Lear, and he was very amusing and made better conversation. Blessedly, the old boy laughed, and had good sense and good grace, to invite the young artist up from the servants' hall to the Earl's own table, introducing him to many of the aristocratic types, who would become some of the artist's most significant patrons, and not a few his lifelong friends. Lear thereafter seldom missed a good meal if he could help it, though he seems to have fully appreciated the potentially unhealthy consequences of excess, to wit. There was an old person of Florence who held mutton chops in abhorrence. He purchased a bustard and fried him in mustard, which choked the old person of Florence. Or, there was an old person whose habits induced him to feed upon rabbits. When he'd eaten 18, he turned perfectly green, upon which he relinquished those habits. And not to forget, there was a young person of Kew, whose virtues and vices were few, but with blamable haste she devoured some hot paste which destroyed the young person.